we are just so excited to have Kechi with us this morning. And before she comes up, some of you might be going, I don't know who Kechi is. Maybe I've seen her sing. And I don't know if everybody's heard of America's Got Talent. And if you haven't heard of America's Got Talent, you probably have heard of Simon Cowell, which became very fond of Kechi on her journey through AGT. And so before she comes up this morning, I'd like to show you just a little clip from her AGT experience.
The reason
They say that 99% of success is just showing up. You do so much more than just show up. You're so much more than your songs and your sound. You're more than a champion of singing and of talent. You're a champion of life.
It was in this very theatre that we met you for the first time, and I remember you being very shy. But based on what I've seen tonight, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really like it that much. I actually loved it. I have always wanted to do that for you. You so deserve it. This is what defines the word champion.
So beautiful. Kechi, come on up. Come on up. I am so excited right now. This is so fun. Wait, but everyone's sitting down except for Mom and Tara. Stand up just for a minute. I've got to recognize you guys. This is Kechi's family here with us this morning, and Mom is about to be a celebrity because we're going to talk about you so much. Thank you guys so much for coming this morning. You're here.
Yes, I am.
This is different. Normally, it's the singing version.
Yes.
I feel like today you should have done that too, and you could have done the whole sermon today, the whole episode. But we're excited you're here. I asked you this morning. I didn't even know this part of your story. How did you get here to be a member of the church, or how long have you been here?
I think we've been here since, was it 2010, Mom? Yeah, 2010. So we had been searching for a church. We live in Pearland, and we had been basically church hopping, looking around. Every Sunday we go to a different one, and we just didn't find one around us that we were able to connect to the way that we wanted. It just didn't feel natural or easy, like it's supposed to. And then it was my dad. He came into town one season, and essentially one of his very good friends already went to Livingstone's, and we knew him as Uncle Afam, and basically he invited us here one Sunday. It was like, just come check out our church, so we, the whole family, we came down here, and I believe Pastor Kevin was preaching at that time. Yes. And we just felt like it just felt right. We got in, and it just, the message, the people, the way we were received, it just felt like an instant connection, and just from there, we just started, we're just like, I guess we're driving 30 minutes every Sunday to come to church. So that's just what it's going to be. And then since then, it's just been Livingstone's.
This is history. And then eventually you joined the worship team after a while, though.
After a while, yes.
Took a while.
Yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do, but never really had the courage to, because I felt like just really, it's always so weird with my voice and just sharing it with anyone outside family, But I've always had it in my heart to want to be a part of a worship team. And I did try out at first. This was before Wes and Kelly were here. And I can't remember what year, but I came in and I tried, and I never came back because it just didn't feel right because I had school. I had all these excuses not to do it. And then I graduated 2015, and now I had time, And so it was like, okay, so what now? So I came in and sang a little bit with Kelly and with Wes, and they were just like, oh my God, okay, so you are part of the team now. And so that's pretty much what it was. I came in and we started worshiping together, and it's just been such a fun, fulfilling part of my life since then.
And the part I was sharing with you this morning was she actually started worshiping here before AGT. Yep. And she was nervous, but then she made on AGT and we golden buzzard. And I'm like, when she comes back here, she's going to be so just ready. But Wes and Kelly said, it's when she comes back here to sing, even though she's been on like these stages all across America, here it's something really special and really sacred because she's singing for God. Not that she's not on AGT, but here. And so she's always like really taking this. Makes you more nervous to be here than on AGT.
It just feels like a pressure in myself to like do great for God. This is not a stage. This is where we're worshiping Him together. So it's always this pressure to like just make sure I don't mess up, and I want to always just kind of present the best possible version of worship to Him. So I don't know why. It just makes me feel more nervous doing that, but because I just feel this pressure. But it's only just because I don't know. This is a very different kind of stage. It's very valuable to me. So I just always wanted to be perfect, even though.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, we have got so much ground to cover today, but and I really want to jump into your book and really kind of your journey with God. That's been beautiful. We were laughing this morning, Sam. It's kind of God's journey, and Kechi got to be involved in it. But can you just catch us all up as a church family? It's really unique because we actually, as long as you've been a member here and all your different seasons you've gone through, we've never actually had this conversation. For us, we've just kind of treated you like just Kechi, but not in a good way. Wanted to she's family and she's here, but we've actually never had this conversation. So catch us up. Tell the church what's going on and give us your story.
Cool. Okay, so I'm Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria, and I grew up there until I was 16 years old, which is where my accident happened. It was a commercial flight, local, I was in boarding school at that time, so we were going home for Christmas, basically, from my boarding school to our home. And usually students who live in the same area, we would fly together in a group to get home. And we would also fly together to come back to the dorm, to campus, to school. So this was December 10th, 2005, and it was a Saturday morning. And so we're heading home for Christmas. And I remember at that time, like I was going home to start studying for the SATs because I was a senior in high school. So it was myself and 60 other students from my high school and other passengers on the plane. There were 109 of us in total. And I remember it was a very normal flight until it just wasn't. The descent started, and then that's when the turbulence started and got really, really bad. And it just became so exaggerated, so dramatic, and people started screaming. It was just chaos inside the cabin. And I remember distinctly holding one of my close friends. She was in the aisle seat next to mine. And that's one of my last memories before everything just went dark. And basically the plane crashed and took 107 of 109 lives on board. So all my friends were gone from school that were on the plane, and there were 2 survivors, myself and another woman who I didn't know prior to the accident. But I sustained third-degree burns over 65% of my body, and basically my life as a burn survivor began in that moment. Everything that I had planned, everything my family had planned, none of that mattered anymore. Now this was our life, And so my journey started in that moment. South Africa was where I was first flown to be taken care of, emergency treatment and surgeries, and then eventually moved back to Nigeria and then moved to America for reconstructive surgery. And I've been here since 2007 with my family. So I got here, did surgery, they gave me back my independence, and I felt strong enough to continue school. So I went back to high school in 2009 and then graduated, got a scholarship, went to St. Thomas University in Houston. Graduated 2015, summa cum laude. I worked hard for that GPA. I worked hard for that degree, and I was so happy and proud of myself. And because I did that for not just myself, but for all the kids that passed away that didn't get a chance to continue life like I did. And so after that, a year passed, I started my MBA, and during that season is when America's Got Talent happened. And basically, since that moment in 2017 that I appeared on that stage, my life has just been completely, like, just the trajectory changed completely, you know. But interestingly, it's kind of like almost full circle, because the things that I grew up loving are the things that I'm basically doing right now. And it's really just God leading me. It's really just God kind of leading me to the exact place He wanted me to be, regardless of how my life went. That's how I feel. And I feel like right now I'm living in the fulfillment of what He's always wanted me to do. I hope so, because that's all I pray for, is for His will to manifest in my life, and, you know, and reach others. So I feel like I'm in a place where I'm finally able to kind of live in the truth of what it is that He wants me to do with this life He saved, you know. And I've done that through different things that I believe in and I speak for. I believe in bullying prevention. I believe in, you know, helping other burn survivors and other trauma survivors to just, you know, see through my life that life after trauma is a thing. It exists, and it's not just about surviving. You can still thrive even after things that you've been through. I want anything I do to show that. Social media, when you meet me in real life, whatever it is, I want to give that, project that. And so I think I've had so many opportunities to be able to do that, and I hope that, you know, through my book, through all these things I do, I get a chance to continue to do that. So that's, in summary, my life.
You did good. Because that's a lot of ground. I said, Kechi, we got to go fast because we got to get to all the good stuff, all the good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the history, getting everybody caught up. But what's inside of your history, and your history with God, is so beautiful, so amazing. It's such an inspiring story. Do we have, Ryan, could you mind like walking us through a few of the pictures before we deep dive into the book?
So that's
everybody say, "Aw."
I was 15 in that picture. That's one of the last pictures I took before the accident happened. This was the summer of 2015, I believe. And that's the actual very last picture I took. This was, I went with my mom to a wedding where she was making the cake. And I usually go with her to like set up and stuff, I think. Yeah, so that's what that was. So that was the very last picture. And then this is the site of the crash. So when it crashed, it just kind of exploded into like pieces, I guess. And that was the debris in which my body, among many, were found the day that the accident happened. Of course, I don't remember anything about this. I was unconscious, but I was told what happened. This was literally December 11th, so this was the day after the accident. I believe I was still in Nigeria at this point. This was before they flew me to South Africa to start my emergency treatment, because in Nigeria, we didn't have the infrastructure to care for third-degree burns. And that's literally me in coma. This is during the time while I was in the coma. I was in the coma for 5 weeks, and that's my mom, who has not left my side since the moment the accident happened, since even before I opened my eyes up until this very moment today. That's my dad. He also came, obviously, you know, he was there. And this was still me just in the coma. And this is just South Africa, basically. This is, so between that picture that just passed and this one is like 5-6 months or so. So this is me, that was me in the burn ICU. This is me in the ward, obviously getting better, feeling better, and just being able to move a little more with my body. And then that's after we came back to Nigeria in 2006, where I stayed before we came over to America in 2007. So that's the yard of one of my mom and dad's friends that were staying in when we first came back home. And this is in Galveston, so we'd moved by now to America. I was being treated by Shriners Hospital in Galveston that specifically treats burns and burns kids. And that's one of the pictures I took to, actually that's my passport picture. Yeah, I took that. That was a picture I took to like get my visa to come to America to start my treatment. And this is the state in which I came to America, essentially. So I came here for reconstructive surgery to care for my burns, and that's like how many years passed? I don't know, 2007, 2015, 8 years. So this is graduation. I also gave the commencement speech for my graduating class, so that's what I'm doing up there. And yeah. This is actually my high school graduation. So this was like 2010, like around the time we started coming to Livingstones, I think, yeah. That's AGT. So this was the semifinals. I just finished singing, and of course, Mom was there. And it was a great time because I had just been saved with like the Dunkin' Save thing that they do. So I was very giddy, very happy. And that's just the people that I went through the semifinals with. So these are finalists with me. This was a very cool time. And then that's the finale stage, which was so cool. I sang a song called Conqueror. And in that moment, I felt like, I felt like a conqueror. I did, because I was like, I made it to the end. And this is Champions. This happened in 2019, whereas AGC happened in 2017. This is AGC Champions, and this was the moment that y'all just saw where I got the buzzer from Simon. Most shocking moment of my life. Didn't expect any of it. I cried so hard. I tried to stop, but I could not. I just kept crying. He was very sweet. He just really took to me, and I was so happy because, you know how he can be if he does not like you. So I was just like, thank God this guy's on my side. So yeah, he was very sweet to me and supported me. And matter of fact, wrote the foreword for my book, was very happy too. So he's always been, very supportive of me, and I'm grateful to him. And I've done a bunch of really cool things since AGT, even before. This was one of my most interesting stages, actually, to speak at a TEDx event. That was very cool. And so many other things that have happened. That was me singing at a concert as part of like a lineup for this concert for kids who volunteer, and then they kind of put on a performance for them, in this huge stage. And that's just where I'm at right now, my book.
That's awesome.
Pretty much my life.
I feel like we all need to take an emotional gap and cry our happy tears. Such an amazing story, Kechi. And I just think your book, you did such an incredible job of telling your story in this book and really just bearing your heart and soul. And not just really your story. I feel like this story is such an amazing story as a testament to who God is. God's faithfulness, God's goodness. I was telling you this morning, I really feel like there's so many things that I think prevent people from furthering in their walk with God. Sometimes it's you go through a really hard time and you can't get up, and maybe you're just either too tired or you're angry with God, and you kind of address it here. I think sometimes we go through things in our life where we don't really fully get to know God just because we don't ever get to know him. And you hit that in here. I feel like I just got resaved reading your book, Kechi. But one of the parts of this book that I just spent so much time in was chapter 2 of your book. And in chapter 2, you spent time kind of talking about the wreck and kind of getting into the hospital and going to South Africa. But you talked about the relationship of you and your mom during that season, and really just what a testament to the faith of your mom to pull you through. And one of the very first things that I wrote in this book that brought me to tears as a mom, and even just knowing your mom, it says, most importantly, I believe that come what may, I would eventually be okay. I just had to because my mother had said so.
Yeah, that's it. Literally. It was, she was just this rock, in my life. And, once she said something, she never lied to me, And so even in this situation, if she could look at me and in this situation and still say, with everything in her that I was going to be okay, then that must be what's going to happen, because I knew where she was getting that confidence from. She believed in everything that God told her. She believed in his promises, and she just never had one doubt when it came to God. And she didn't joke around with her faith. So if she's saying that this is going to be okay, that at the end of the day we're going to smile about this, we're going to have things to smile about, then I just trusted her with everything. I really did.
It was a beautiful part in your story. You talked about just really in those, we saw some pictures of when you were first kind of in the coma and kind of in and out, but that was the voice that you would kind of come in and out to, and it was mom singing over you or mom reading scripture over you, and
singing,
just
speaking.
Faith in that room. I think it's just such a beautiful testament to just even to parents out there, and just how much the strength. Sometimes, we root for our kids, and I was feeling my mama vibes reading this of, you want your kids to meet God and see God, and it takes a while for them, but when your faith is strong, it's something that you learn to admire and look up to.
Yeah.
So I'm reading that and I'm teared up, but then I go to the next chapter and there's this part. I have to read it, Kechi, because it's so funny. And you said, I also told mommy that I loved her more than I loved Jesus. And I asked her if she loved Jesus more than me. And I was stunned and shocked when she said yes. I cried so hard that day. How could she say that? I was her daughter. I almost died, and I was hanging on this life filled with so much pain because of her. And then she tells me she loves Jesus more than she loves me. And then it goes on, and it says, little did I know these questions were the true beginning of my own relationship with Jesus.
Yep.
I enjoyed so much reading because I was seeing you and your journey kind of change along the way. And it kind of took the faith of your mom, I think, to model that faith for you. Yes. And you shared something this morning about just if she could be that way, how
I felt like, I really kind of, as I got to a place where I was just confused and searching for, God for myself. Of course, I had my mom's faith and my mom's belief and her family really as like this model, of what to aspire to be as a Christian. And so far in this journey, not just through the surgeries and everything, but my faith, my spiritual journey, I was finding it so hard to connect to God the way that my mom obviously did. When she spoke to me about him, there was just this gentle conviction and she was just so sure, and I just wanted to access that. I wanted him to show me himself in the way that he has shown himself to her, such that I could never doubt or deny that, he not only existed, but that he was a good God that wanted, the best for his children. And I felt like my mom's faith was just this thing that like almost like I aspired to be on that level, because she never portrayed herself as having all the answers. It was never that she knew everything or that she was better or more righteous or anything. It was just that she just seemed to be more experienced in this walk. It's a walk for everyone, but some people are a little further than others, but the walk never stops. And I saw her walk, and I saw that she was still learning every day herself. She still had questions herself. And I just felt like, wow, I have so far to go, I have so much to learn, and there's just so much distance between us. And I just feel like, how can I grasp, faith the way that she has, obviously,
Yeah. There's something beautiful you said. You said that you looked to your mom for the strength you needed to survive, but she looked to God for the strength she needed to survive.
Yes. Definitely.
And I just get emotional even thinking about that, because just how powerful it is that when people really do have that connection with God, there's just this strength that comes from them. And that's what you said. You said, I truly wanted to see him, God, the way that my mother saw him, or more specifically, to experience God like she had. And you begin to kind of go on this journey, and you were really searching for that.
Yes.
And God began to kind of talk to you and show you things.
Yes,
Can you
did.
share us a little bit of that part of the story?
It was, he just had this way of reaching. So, I feel like what in my life, he's kind of used, the things that he knows I enjoy, the things that I like, to get my attention, loving music, for instance. He would use music to reach me, the words of certain songs. And I would have these dreams, South Africa was just a weird time. Maybe it's just because I feel like because I had come so close to like death, I just had I was in a place where there was just this exposure to a lot of like spiritual like insight. And I had these dreams that were so obviously full of meaning, and a lot of times things would happen where, they would confirm. So one cool thing, one moment I will always remember, for instance, is when I had this, so far I had been, kind of relying on my mom's prayers, my family's prayers. Praying for myself had never quite occurred to me because, everyone else is doing it, so I'm good, I'm covered, and with my mom, I'm covered, so I just felt like I'm good, and I don't need to I don't need to put in my own effort, really, because I'm here busy trying to, heal and stuff. So I had my mom, just kind of interceding for me, and I felt so comfortable in that place. And then one day I had this dream, and it was just the weirdest thing because it was two dreams. The first one was I was in a fellowship setting with my mom, my family, everyone was there. And then this guy was just like staring at me because I was looking around. And then, he was like, why are you looking around? Close your eyes and pray like everyone else. Why do you keep looking up and looking around? You need to do what everyone else is doing. And then he starts laughing at me, And I woke up and I just felt like that was, first of all, rude. And then like, secondly, I felt very chastised because I felt like God was trying to tell me, I need to, I can't just let everyone else pray, I got to pray too. And I felt like that's kind of unfair. Like, why is he, yelling at me? Like, I got this vibe of like a father kind of like, sternly talking to his child and just kind of telling me, what I need to be doing right now. And my mom came in and I told her about the dream. And then I had another dream that and this time it was more like it was someone telling me that I needed, like literally said, you need to start praying for yourself, okay? You can't keep relying on your mother's prayers. This was a direct, like talking to me. And so I told my mom about the second dream, and then she told me that, you know what, that if these dreams mean anything, that God will confirm it. Like if it's from him, he'll confirm his own word. He'll confirm it. And then I kid you not, later that day, because the visiting hours, they're staggered. So it's like there's one in the morning, one in the evening, the afternoon. So she came in that evening and then she told me that my grandma, her mom, had called her just with no context and just told her like, hey, Ijama, I've been feeling like, we need to start teaching Kechi how to like, pray for herself. We need to start teaching her how to like, take care of herself and, speak out to God directly, And she had not talked to anyone about any of these things. Usually, like she normally tells the whole family every time I have these dreams or whatever, she'd not said anything. So for her to say that, me, I was just like, okay, like point taken, like at this point, I see where this is going. And I felt like that was just a way that God had always kind of tried to reach me, through dreams. And this might be like a weird segue, but I just remembered one situation very similar to this, but this happened here in America. This happened last year. So I had been feeling very down. COVID had happened. I wasn't traveling anymore. I wasn't working as much. So I was in the place where I was just confused about what I was supposed to do with my life. Now that I'm in this season, how do I come out of it? How do I learn from it? How do I grow from this? And I was just lost, and just really sad. All of a sudden I felt like I'd lost my purpose and sight of like what I was supposed to be doing. And I told my mom about this, we talked about it a little bit. And that night I had a dream. And in that dream, I was standing in a field, right? And behind me was a forest, like a thick forest. I looked back and it was just like a thick, like forest, dark. And I was standing in the field like as though I had come out of that forest. And in front of me was just this vast green, endless green. And I didn't really understand that. So I told my mom about the dream. And she just gave me this look. And then she was like, I was just about to tell you about the dream I had, that in my dream, you were running through, like, you were like in a dark, like, forest, running through, like, stuff. Like, you looked like you were trying to, get somewhere, essentially. And you were just running through, and you couldn't find your way, you couldn't see the path, but you just felt like you just needed to keep pushing through. And it was just the most eerie feeling, because it was like her dream had stopped right where mine began, and it just connected. And that for me I would never forget that feeling, like the goosebumps, like the goose flesh. It was just like, this is literally like God, like speaking to me and speaking to us, and basically using our dreams to kind of connect to me and tell me that, it might feel, like I'm lost now, but like he's leading me somewhere, And so it's things like that happen that kind of let me know that, he's like, I just noticed like these little things that happen where his signature is right there in my life. And that's just one other example, really.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you made it so simple, because I think we all have encounters like that with God. Maybe it's a dream, or maybe it's somebody says that one thing right at the right time and there's no way they would have known to say that. But you kind of, now you're going, that's God's signature. But at the beginning, you were kind of going, even though these things are happening, I can kind of explain it away. You said, aside from my strange dreams, I still did not have any definitive experiences that would serve to convince or convict me as a Christian. And it's funny now, I'm sure looking back, you go like, oh, besides him saving me and him going through all these things. But we do that. We get in those moments and God's looking for us. And just like you said, I love that you said a minute ago, he was using the things that mattered to you and were special to you to reach you, because that's what a good parent does, right? If we know our kid really likes candy, we come try to get their attention with candy. And it seemed like he was doing that. He was a father and he knew his daughter and he was reaching you. But you said that still was not quite enough yet. But it was still that journey of learning to know God. And you had this epiphany later on in the book, and you said, you came to realize two important things. It was another night that you had kind of had a moment with God, and you said, one is that I clearly believed in God, but I did not know him. How can you trust or surrender anything to someone you don't even know? Yep. I feel like that piece for me, Kechi, for me personally, I could relate to it because I felt like that was part of my journey. I grew up here in church as a PK, and for the majority of my life, my whole life, I knew everything about God. And just because you have people around you that know God well, it doesn't really change your experience until you know God for yourself. And you said, how can you trust or surrender anything to someone you don't even know? Can you talk a little bit more about that point?
I mean, for me, it was like I was learning all these things about God and, through my mom, through my family. And, it was all making sense. I was learning, reading the scripture and just learning all these things about him, all these great things. And how, my mom, my grandma, they would talk to me about how to lay your burdens, at his feet and just leave them there. For me, my burdens at that point were the pain from the surgery, the depression that I was battling because of, just the realization that, all my friends were gone. And also just the worst of it was the itching that came with the healing burns. That was like the worst demon of this whole thing that I had to deal with. And I just never understood why, he's such a great God. Why wouldn't he just magic these things away, from ever happening to me, haven't I already gone through enough and things like that. And I felt like at that point I had different moments where, I was learning to pray. I had learned that, prayer can help. Prayer helps actually a lot of times it's not what I need is not pain medication, but just a peace in my heart that could only come from reaching out to him and talking to him. And oftentimes that's all I would need to fall asleep, So I knew that, him being in my life was having a good effect on me. I could see the evidence of that. But the idea of just, leaving everything that I was going through to him, was just so weird to me because I couldn't understand, I feel like I kept on taking it back. I feel like I kept on, every time I felt like, it wasn't being handled how I wanted it to be, then it's like, I got this, let me just do this myself, And I came to the realization that the reason it was so hard for me to leave my troubles with him was because I didn't really believe that he would actually take care of them for me. And that's because I didn't really know, I didn't trust him enough to do these things because I didn't know him enough to trust him, Just like how you would learn to love and know a person, they become your friend, or, you get to know someone who eventually becomes your spouse. You need to actually form a relationship and intentionally seek to know that person before you decide if they're friend or foe. And I felt like I had missed that step when it came to God. I just went from, okay, so he's a good God. Okay, so he heals and he does good things. So I want those good things. But in between that is the knowing him and believing for him to do those good things, So I felt like that was the moment where I realized that I had skipped a whole step. And that whole step was where my answers were,
Yeah, and that's really when your faith became your own. And I think it shows a lot of maturity on your part. For you, it's at least to be able to recognize that although maybe that's not where your strength was coming from. Yours was coming from your mom, but it was God's strength was just coming through your mom to you. And just what a testament to, again, mom's faith to be able to be there. And then as you begin to, it was like God started weaning you off and going,
that's exactly it. Weaning me off,
it's time for you, Kechi. And, we talked about it some in the office this morning, just how, I think the word mom was using is that God's signature was on things. And it took you a bit to recognize that signature. But you were even referencing something in the office that happened a few weeks ago. And you said you're beginning to see, like, when it's like that, that it's God. Because that's when you know somebody.
Yes,
when you know somebody, you know their signature. James has a signature smell. The other day I came home from a trip and I could still smell him. I was like, you must have just been here. I can still smell you. I know you. And it's like that's how your relationship with God has become. And it's a good thing because you've been doing some really brave, courageous things that you needed to jump out on. And you said something in the office. You were talking about just your faith with God. And you said you were talking about what it takes for you to do something. And when you do it, he comes through. Yes. Tell us that. I want to get your words, not mine.
Literally, what you just touched on, his signature, I started to kind of see a pattern in how he, shows me he's involved in something, and it's usually, I think everyone can probably relate to that when it comes to like taking risks, when you can't really see the end properly, where you're not sure where you're going because the path is unclear, but there is a path to walk, or when you're not sure to jump in because you can't see the bottom. There's a lot of moments in my life that are like that, where there's just a certain flavor to it that just tells me that I need to just jump and then just see what happens. And usually that's like how I notice his signature, because a lot of times those are the moments that become like milestone moments for me. They end up being like the place where he meets me. So I jump first, and then so it's kind of like he's basically waiting for me to like decide to take that step in faith out, and then he essentially meets me at that point once I stepped out. And it's literally something I've seen in different parts of my life, where at one point my mom she was like, that God really just likes to brag with you, like really with your life. And I feel like that's literally what he does, because there's so many crazy things that have happened that just like didn't make, even from the beginning with the accident, like being able to fly to South Africa, like we weren't like a wealthy family. We're just normal, very average family, middle class like income. So to be able to like afford the kind of care that I needed was impossible. But within 24 hours of that whole thing happening, we were able to get connected to people that were able to move like so quick. And it was people that we didn't even know, but so many different strangers rallied to make this happen for me, where it was like, we need to get her somewhere where they can take care of her, and everything all the way to coming to America as well. Getting in touch with a hospital like Shriners that basically gave me back my life, and then even, going to school and, graduating, and then going to get my master's, how that happened was a whole miracle as well. America's Got Talent, needless to say, I mean, I didn't even sign up for the show myself. Like, one of my best friends actually signed me up without telling me. So she just took matters into her own hands, and I got to a point where I could decide if I want to keep moving forward with this or not. And I actually lost my job at that time because I was traveling so much for the show. And I just got to a crossroads where I just felt like, this is so dumb. How am I losing an actual job for a chance to be on a TV show? This doesn't make, I just felt like I was being so silly, But my mom would just be like, we didn't even like do this ourselves. Like, there's something here. And like, at this point, like, we have to just see it through and see what happens, you know? So I think and then, from there, that experience opened up this whole other world to me. And I just feel like it's just like I sense when he's moving and when he's waiting for me to move, The book is another example too. There was just a time when it was just, I just got to a place where it was like, I just feel like if I just do this now, once I put something out there, he's just going to respond like immediately. So the issue is always, sometimes, you're the one stopping yourself from receiving what you've been praying for all along, because you get to a point where it's just like, can you move? Can you do something? And he's like, you first, do something, meet me somewhere, give me something to work with, And that's that's how I felt about writing this book as well. Because the moment I was ready and I said, you know what, let's do this. I prayed. I wrote out the first manuscript. I sent it to my agent. He went, shopped around. Within like a week, we started getting like calls from publishers. It didn't take any amount of time. So I feel like he was just like, I've always told you, he keeps having to remind me, just step out first and, just see what happens, So I think I started recognizing that for, his signature in my life. And so I'm trying to move forward, just kind of remembering that, instead of having to be reminded of that all the time.
Yep. That's beautiful. We've been in, and I talked to you a little bit about this a few weeks ago, our series that we've been in is about fruitfulness. And that really, fruit is the product of us being in union with God. And I think we talked about your mom. Obviously, the fruit of her life, of her being in union with God, was displayed to you through that season when you needed strength. That was what that fruit in her life looked like. But that really should be something for us as all as Christ followers. And as you went on this journey with God and begin to have your own faith and your own journey, I think fruitfulness became part of your life.
Definitely.
And the scripture that we've talked about in here often is, when you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples, and how much glory it brings to the Father. And really, that our highest goal as Christians really should be living in a way that we bear fruit that is the fruit of our Father, that people would know who he is through us. And so much of your journey has been you really getting to share the love and the life of Jesus kind of flowing from inside of you. And we talked about in church that fruits in different ways. We kind of looked up the Greek and Hebrew and saw in the Old Testament, it was like reward, things that happen, God brings into our life. But one of the ways that the New Testament, when we talk about fruit, is a fruit that we do when we actually contribute to others. And that's something that's pretty marvelous to me about your life, is not only are you doing all these things and going on AGT and writing books, but you've really made it a focus in your life to go and contribute in other areas. Can you tell us a bit about that, about all the different places that you're going?
So it's really, I believe it's a privilege for me to be able to, use my very life and the gifts that God has given me to be able to make some kind of positive impact in the world. I feel like I can't tell you 100% that I know exactly what God wants me to do in my life, but I do feel like I am on the right path, where I'm doing things that are making him happy, pleased, that he wants me to do, So, for instance, helping other burn survivors kind of, get to a good place, and showing them through my own life that, that good place is accessible, even though we've been through something so difficult. And that has been something that I've always wanted to do. But then not only for burn survivors, but for anyone who's gone through any kind of trauma. it doesn't have to be as dramatic as a plane crash for it to be valid. And scars don't have to be as obvious as mine for them to be valid either, Invisible scars are a real thing too. And oftentimes have much more long-lasting effects, in fact, So I feel the need to use my life as an example to show people that, there is this life that can still be good after what you've been through. And I do that through, advocating for burn survivors. I believe strongly in bullying prevention and, taking actual steps to doing what I can to prevent it from happening to the next person, by just speaking and teaching about how I've dealt with it myself and learning about it so I can talk more about it. And being involved with youth and teenagers, people who go through some might argue the worst kind of bullying, which is among peers essentially in a school setting and outside school as well. So I feel like those are things that I've kind of been called to do as a part of my life, as a part of what I can, because like you said, the rewards, I've gotten so much, I feel just my very life alone is just a reward, and I feel the need to kind of, I guess, share that, in how, however I can, we all have the capacity in us to kind of bear fruit for the sake of others, through our own experiences, So, I have my experience. My experience allows me to kind of give in the way that I have experienced life.
Yeah.
And so it's the same for anyone else, like you said, my mom, her faith, I feel like is a huge part of who she is, if not the main thing that she is. And through her faith, she may not realize, but just her being herself and being a believer, she has influenced her kids, her husband, her family in the way that she approaches God. And, that is something that I saw and wanted, even at the worst part of my life when my mind was filled with just pain and surgeries and things. So, it's living in that truth that God has put inside you and projecting it out into the world. I think you just never know who you're reaching, by doing that. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I hope I'm doing with the things that I do, whether it's social media, what I put out there. I want it to be things that I can always look back and be proud of and know that I authentically was myself in those moments when I put those things out there. Same thing with my book. I want people to meet me in person also and know that what they see online and what they see in the book, what they see in person is all the same person.
Yep.
So
sure.
That's pretty much what I'm
Yeah, that's good. That's one of the things, quotes that Pastor James says often is, if God can get it through you, he'll get it to you. And we use that as sometimes with money or resources, but it goes that way for just the resources of, if he can get love through you, he'll get love to you. And it seems like during that season, you were surrounded with so much love and so much favor. And now because of that, it's something that God uses to send through you. And it just is part of the fruitfulness of your life. But another type of fruit that we've been talking about is just the fruit of character and the fruit of conduct, which the Bible calls fruits of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And there was a particular fruit of the Spirit that I think is near and dear to you. That's kind of something that you've used on your journey, probably the most. You want to share about that?
Definitely. I would say long-suffering, perseverance, endurance. That is definitely a fruit that I had to kind of hold on to and expand, and just, my journey really tested the limits of my tolerance in many ways, pain and just, emotional, mental, physical, in every kind of way. I was pushed beyond what I thought was my limits, and despite how painful and how hard things got or seemed, there was still the other side that I got to, And so I just kind of learned through my experience that, this thing called, perseverance, this endurance, it's kind of, how we talk about how faith is like a muscle that you have to work and you have to kind of learn how to, expand it, grow it. I feel like it's the same thing with certain, with the fruits, the Spirit. And that's how it is for me with endurance, with perseverance. It's the same kind of thing. You got to work it. You have to practice it. And the more you do, it doesn't get easier, but what happens is that you overcome, you persevere, and then you get strong enough to deal with the next thing that's going to come. Because, life is full of a lot of different things that we cannot predict. But we can, through these fruits, we can become equipped, to deal with the different trials that are going to come up as long as we are alive, So I felt like endurance was something that I had no choice but to, learn how to use and exercise if I was to come out of this situation whole, not just physically, but on the inside as well. And so I feel like as I moved on from, being my life being, in danger into just, getting my independence back, it was still something that I was practicing, learning how to be patient, also with prayer, not having the answer right then and there, or not having the answer the way that you expected it to come, can stop you from actually seeing when you've had it, and I felt like, so endurance was something that, I learned to kind of embody essentially, and to make sure that, I believed truly that once I've given something to God, once I've done something, then, he knows about it. And, in his time, which is what we all want, his will in our lives to be carried out. In his time, he will act, on those requests, on those prayers, on your life, and manifest, his response in his own way. That's usually much better than ours anyway. So that's definitely the one fruit that I would say I had to embody the most during that time.
And it seems like, really just reading your story, that you begin to almost look forward to difficulties because you realized the fruit of going through that. You said, but at what point in my life will I gain the qualities I need to live this difficult life in this difficult world if I never experienced difficulties?
Exactly.
And it made me think about the scripture in James that says pretty much count it all joy when you go through various trials and tribulations, because it's through those that you're going to gain the endurance and the strength and the character, and you're going to experience that, and you're going to experience God's goodness. So you can do it even more, and it's going to bring you hope. And so you just really have embodied it. And it, even in your, now you go through different types of struggle, but there's still hardships along the way. But now you kind of feel like, and that's what you said to me, you said, it kind of feels like God's signature when there's like this jump gap here. And I look forward to it and know that. But another couple of things, when I was reading your book, I was thinking about maybe some fruits of the Spirit that you didn't necessarily have, but you learned to have.
Yep.
And one of those that I saw in this story is just really you choosing joy. You said, I realized the plane crash had already taken everything from me and so many people, but it did not have to take away my joy. Despite what happened to me, I could choose joy. I could choose to hold on to my smile and my happiness. I think that's amazing and beautiful, and I think that's something that just emanates from you, is this joy that you found that doesn't seem to be conditional. It feels like something coming from the inside.
That's very true. I've definitely always felt that I'm a very, naturally, I have a very, I believe, positive disposition. So what happened to me, this accident, it brought out a different part of my personality that I did not like. This weepy person complaining all the time and sad all the time. Like, it was exhausting just always feeling all these negative emotions, because I didn't feel like naturally like predisposed to those kind of feelings. And I don't think anyone is really. But I was just on the other extreme so much that it was so weird to just be this other person. And for me, the worst of it was seeing what that did to my parents, what that did to people that loved me, because they know me, they know how I am, like they know how I actually am. And so they know that this is not me. And the worse I felt, the worse they felt. And then it just kept going.
Yep.
So I always found it so hard to I didn't like expressing like those negative things, because I knew how it affected those around me. And I knew that they weren't used to seeing me this way, so it was a very difficult thing to kind of navigate at that time. But at the same time, one thing that they always had for me was like this never-ending love, and acceptance, showing me that, they didn't care about anything except me getting better. And so I felt like, I feel like this pain and itching are not going to, they're just like what I'm going to have to deal with as a burn survivor. If that's the case, then I cannot allow this circumstance that I cannot help, also affect the things that I can help. I can decide how I want my day to go, despite all the pain I'm going through and the itching. I could see the things that usually make me happy and choose to continue getting happiness from those things, and I didn't have to allow what happened to me color every single part of my life. Yeah. So, and I didn't want that, because then I felt like that would impede the way that I was supposed to come out of this, and affect possibly when I leave the hospital, because I won't be there forever. I felt like it would affect how I would approach life after I leave the hospital too, if I stay in this negative place. So it was for my own good to learn how to choose joy, to learn how to be happy, to learn how to grab and hold on to the things that make me happy in this really hard time, so that it becomes easier to do that, as I get out of the hospital and have to encounter the world again, essentially. Yep. Yep. So I think, that was something that I had to learn for sure.
Yeah. When I was talking to you this morning, I was like, I'm diagnosing you because I've read your book now. But I felt like there was another fruit of the Spirit that I saw just kind of working through your life. And it's one that normally I wouldn't think of it in this term, but I felt like I saw you really emanating self-control. I think usually when we think of the word self-control, we think of it in regards to maybe 8-year-old boys that are really hyper and need to stop running around and making body noises, right? And do some self-control. But self-control is really more than that. It's really choosing to control myself and what I feel like and what I'm doing in these environments. And you were talking about how just even going into different conversations and different fellowships, that it could be uncomfortable and you didn't know how people would take you in these environments. And you said, I can help people see past my scars. I don't have to be a passive participant in this interaction. I have a role to play there too. Basically, I have the power to decide how much Kechi other people get to see, to know, and to experience. America, please listen to this one line. If you get anything out of it, like, you decided that you had control of yourself in this environment and you didn't have to be a victim in the room. You could walk into the room and go, man, maybe they feel uncomfortable because they don't know what to say. And I can control my joy. I can control this conversation. I can bring life into this room. And wow, Kechi, that is so amazing and so just mature of you. And that was something I kind of shared with my office. I feel like one of the things that helped you go through this is that you seem to not have a strong self-centeredness. I think people seem to be very self-centered. They walk into a room and they're thinking of me. It's always me, 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 me. But instead, you have this life that you just genuinely care about other people. And kind of going back to the fruit, that's what Jesus said. That's how people will know you're my disciples, the way that you really do love one another. And it's like this love that you have for other people. And even going through when you were sick, you were worried about your mom. You weren't always worried about me all the time. So it's easy for you to walk into a room, or maybe it's not easy, but it's natural for you because you're not walking into the room going, what about Kechi? You go, like God takes care of Kechi.
Yeah, very true.
So I think that's beautiful, and I know we've got to close up here, but I wanted to kind of jump into one more piece of this because talking about the reward part of this, we've brought that up a few times. Again, back to the fruitfulness, we've talked about fruit being conduct. It's what we contribute. There's different ways that we find fruit, but one of those is fruit comes back to us in the form of reward. And Pastor James and I are always so careful because we never want to tell people serve God because of what you get. What you get is God, and that's so good. But there's just this spiritual law that's just intact of when you serve God, reward can't help but find you. And it might not be on the timeline that you want or even the way you think it's going to be, but it's beautiful and it's amazing. And I think you're living that part of your season right now. And you were talking about how, and you mentioned it earlier, how in your life, the reward of your life right now, you're just living this really happy, full life and you're contributing, but how unique it was that all the things that maybe you'd cared so much about when you were younger, the things that you were passionate about, who you were, is really what you're living now.
Very true, definitely.
And I think that's that abundant life that God talks about. And God didn't put desires and things in your heart just to like toy with your emotions and be like, haha, you can't ever have these things. It's really what he designed for you, and that's why those loves and those passions are in you. But sometimes I think we just don't get there, and we give up on the journey, and you didn't. And I think you're living the reward of that journey. Can you quickly just kind of share a little about that piece?
Pastor Steph, you pretty much said that's really how I feel about my life. I feel like I have been on the receiving end of so much goodness for such a long time. Ever since this accident happened, I've gotten to see the best of humanity, honestly, in just generosity, kindness, people who don't even know me but are praying for me, people who just want the best for me, for my family. The world is a very scary place, and a lot of bad things happen, but I've met great people, great individual people and communities, and just I've seen pockets of good like in so many places, even especially in fact in relation to my experience as a burn survivor. I didn't go through a lot of the things that I know a lot of burn survivors go through, or anyone that has any kind of physical difference, that looks different. It's not always easy to navigate life, but I'm very grateful because I've been able to, meet only, just 99.9% kind people who are open, people who just want to like help me or to just, sow something good into my life. And that, is just something that when it naturally happens to you, I feel like you just naturally want to pass it on. Yep. Or pay it forward kind of, I've just received so much goodness that I feel that it's only right and it's only natural for me to want to have other people experience that same goodness and feel those good feelings that I feel just from, being blessed by, the people God has put in my life. So it's kind of like, like you said, it's natural. Like once you are living in your truth with God and you are like, he's in your life, his will is being carried out in your life, and you basically are doing things that, make him happy. Mm-hmm. I think it's just only natural that like reward follows. And it's not because you're not doing these things with the intention of receiving the reward, but it's just a natural consequence of living the way that he wants you to.
Yep.
You know, and
So
so
good.
I feel that that's something like and also it's just easier. It's less of a struggle because, you know, it's not when it's him. It's not hard. Like definitely life is hard. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like during that hard time, and we talked about this before, it just having him in there makes the hard stuff like less. It makes it easier to go through because even in that pain and that darkness, he's there, and you know he's there. And so there's a peace that comes in that dark place that sustains you and helps you understand that, you know, you're not going to be in this place forever, you know? And so that, having multiple experiences like that, they affect a person, you know? And so they make me believe that, like, this is him, you know, this is him. And so if I can live my life in a way that would allow other people to see that influence he has in my life, and if that influences their life, you know, makes them want to know more about him, because people will ask me, like, you know, how are you this way? You know, reading the book shows you that I didn't just naturally, like, magically just become this person. It was a journey, you know, and it was a relationship that I built with him. And it's, you know, if it can happen for me, there's literally no one it can, like, there's no one that's exempt from that, from access to that, you know? And so that's all I want. The main thing I want is for people to see that, you know, what you see about me that you like or you think is cool or you think is nice, it's not me, you know? It's coming from an infinite source of all those good things. That's what he is. That's what he's been. And so I hope that it makes people want to know more about him, essentially. So that's, in that way, that cycle of reward, I think, you know, coming from him, flowing into us and out into other people, I think that is what it means to be happy. That is what it means to live the way that God wants you to live.
Yeah, so good. And I think in response to that, Kechi, I think we would say, and I think God would say, thank you for allowing, like, running the full race so that God could show he is a rewarder, and God is so good. And that's that scripture out of Hebrews. It says you must believe that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And I think Mom said it right, like, God just loves to brag on you, Kechi. But the truth is, like, God wants to brag on all of us through our lives. It's getting in there and going like, okay, God, let's do this. There was a whole lot of a trying that turned into trusting. And when that trusting started coming, God began to move. And I'm sure this did not write the story of how you would ever in your wildest dreams imagine the story being written. But here you are now living in this abundant life, every day walking hand in hand with God. And he's just opening doors that no man can shut. And God's doing amazing things. And this story is so unique, but I don't think that God ever intended the stories of him getting to brag with people's lives. I don't think he intended it to be unique. He intended it to be normal, to where he was able to bless people and live through people and partner with people in their journey. So I say thank you for that. Thank you for showing our church and just really the kingdom of God that lifestyle of walking hand in hand with Jesus and how faithful and how good God is. And thank you, Mama, for setting the tone for that. Today was incredible, Kechi. Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Pastor Steph.
Thank you for watching with us. We hope you enjoyed the message today. We always want to give you an opportunity to be a part of what God is doing here. So if you'd like to give, please text LS Church to 833-245-4492 or head over to our website at lschurch.tv. Again, thanks so much for watching with us, and we hope you have a great week.